Rosa Parks, undoubtedly a hero. I don't think anyone disagrees with me on this, but I want to retrace our steps because I think we get really caught up in only the situation where the bus driver says, sit in the back, and she says, no. That's the story summed up. I'm sorry, I don't want to be disrespectful, but that is the story summed up, basically. And I think that's pretty much everyone's basic head knowledge that comes to mind when we think about the bus, or Rosa Parks, excuse me. But I want to flash back to Rosa Parks at 16. Okay, so here's the situation. Her mom is sick. Her aunt is sick. So somebody has to pay the bills. And she decides it's going to be her. So at 16, she drops out of high school, starts working, starts paying her family's bills. And at the age of 32, she gets her high school diploma because she's married at this point to Raymond Parks, who was on the NAACP board. And yeah, gets her high school diploma. Just really admirable that she went back and actually did that. Like, I probably would be like, oh, it's too late. But no, she's about the education, so it's really cool. And then she gets a job with the NAACP as their secretary. So she's really involved and really involved in her faith, really involved in the committee, and really involved in equality, like as a whole. We'll see. And you guys know kind of the story. But because of Rosa, a lot of things in America, I like to think, are gradually changing. Definitely racism still relevant. That's another topic, but it's still relevant, still going on. But I think it would be much worse had Rosa not done what she did in the story. Okay, so on December 1st, 1955 is when Rosa was asked to move to the back of the bus when there was hardly anyone on the bus, and she said no and was thrown off and fined and had to get bailed and everything. But this led to so many different things. So this kind of, and granted, there are two women before her who got kicked off for the same thing, but for some reason her story kind of triggered, and with that, people were like, enough is enough, the Montgomery bus boycott. So this is actually really interesting and really kind of fascinating as I looked into it. But the Montgomery bus boycott was the people of the NAACP and citizens got together. And particularly there was this one, I don't know if she was a professor or a member of the NAACP, but anyways, she got like 10 students together, and they went to the university library in Montgomery and printed off 55,000 copies of this flyer that says like something along the lines of like, we're not gonna ride the bus, like walk, we're gonna boycott, because the justice system was very messed up at this point. So I'm not even joking. I looked into it, and there's 55,000 African Americans living in Montgomery, Alabama, and that is the estimated number of people that were walking everywhere every single day. And I watched some interviews from that, and it's crazy. Like, they're talking about how they're so empowered because they all have this mutual goal of just our justice system changing in that way. And just, yeah, that's really cool. Really sad that that is how it was for African Americans and just people of different races at the time. But I still think it's really empowering to look back and see that they were all united under one cause. And so the Montgomery bus boycott actually lasted 382 days. So like through the winter, everything, this is crazy. And another something I didn't know about that was there was actually people buying cars and chauffeuring people around. So you had the people walking, and then you had people that would buy cars and chauffeur African American citizens around. And some of them are white, some of them are black, but still really, really cool. And and all because Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat. So this is really, really cool. I watched some interviews with people about, just kind of who Rosa was as a person, and she was this really quiet, kind individual who had a really strong faith and took that super seriously. And so I think something we can learn from her is, even though she wasn't loud and obnoxious, she still felt a strong sense of duty to her race, her family, her people, her faith, you know, and finally one day it was just like, no. And it wasn't like she's like freaking out on this guy and like going all crazy and saying all these things she doesn't mean. She was just like, you know, a simple response of like, this is wrong. And I think that speaks a lot of power, of just like actions speak louder than words. And also, it's just interesting. Yeah, she's not like this overpowering, like super crazy, you know, natural leader or anything. She was just an ordinary person who refused to give up her seat and actually changed the course of history. And so, if not for Rosa Parks, the race issues in America would be much worse. I think we can all now acknowledge that. You know, they're still not where we want them to be, which is non-existent. But they're exponentially less than they were back then. And in her eyes, she was just an ordinary citizen, humble as all get out, apparently. But in terms of history, there's no doubt that she's a hero. And I mean, Rose is like so cool. She died just recently, actually, kind of in 2005, but she got awarded with so many different things, and like that to classify herself as a hero. But I think that even in a more like historical sense, she's just a hero of so many different things. And yeah, so I really think we have a lot to learn from Rosa Parks. And I wish I could go into more detail, but this speech cannot be that long. But yeah, this story is really, really cool. And something memorable that I took away and was said in an interview was if she would have just, you know, sat or moved to the back of the bus and like she normally would on this particular day, December 1st, 1955, where would we be with these race issues? Like, would we even have made progress? So, thanks God for Rosa Parks for not moving to the back of the bus. So, thank you guys for listening. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah.